Hello and welcome to ETG's The State of Play, the show where we've been giving you the lowdown on travel to Asia throughout the pandemic. This is going to be our final episode. We feel the pandemic phase in travel is coming to an end and we don't want to outlive our usefulness, but we did want to bring you bang up to date with all the latest on travel to Asia. I'm Sam Clark, I'm the co-founder and managing director of Experience Travel Group, and I'm joined by Melissa Nicholas, my fellow director and all-round travel geek in the office. Melissa, how's it going?
Pretty good. Well, we're up and running again. We've got people exploring all over Asia. We've had people travel to India. Lots of people have been to Sri Lanka, and now we're beginning to see demand come back from places like Vietnam and Borneo, and even Thailand as well. So it's kind of just the old normal problems that we're dealing with now, like the UK's inability to run airports.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for the final time, if I could invite you to come into the check-in, where Melissa will bring us up to date on the latest news from around Asia. Melissa, off you go.
Well, there's great news from Thailand. They finally dropped all testing requirements, both before and on arrival. Indonesia's also opened up, and they've removed all requirements for on-arrival testing. Vietnam's now open, and they're successfully welcoming tourists back for the first time in 2 years. Malaysia's open too. There's a lateral flow test to be taken on arrival for Malaysia, but we've heard that that's going to be dropped pretty soon. And of course, Malaysia includes the most visited part of Borneo, so Borneo adventures are also now back on the cards. And then finally, the other good news was that Sri Lanka and the Maldives dropped all pre-travel testing completely. And the latest on that is Sri Lanka have also now dropped the quarantine requirement for non-vaccinated travellers too.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Melissa. Now, let's go to the departure lounge where I will be joined by my colleagues Holly and James, who are going to tell us a bit more about where you can book right now and why. So, welcome to you both. And now, can I go to you first, James, and get the lowdown on India? Any issues with travel to India at the moment?
No, it's fantastic. It's very much open. We've had clients there having a fantastic trip. You used to be able to get an e-visa. We're sure that will be coming back in soon. So you just need to go to a centre or organise your visa through a visa company. But it's nice and easy. And yeah, fully back to India. So it's absolutely fantastic.
Perfect. That's great news. And Holly, can you tell us a bit about Vietnam, please?
Yeah, so Vietnam actually were very much standing their ground for quite a while throughout the pandemic and not really showing many signs of opening for quite a while, even when other countries were. So it was really quite a lovely surprise when they announced their reopening, and a very well thought out one at that. So you can now actually travel there without the need to take any arrival COVID test at all. You just need a pre-departure one before you leave the UK. And the great news is that the majority of key sites and hotels have essentially been very protected by domestic tourism, meaning you can basically get back to travelling as good as normal there again. Plus, it's a really good time of year to visit in terms of weather. So yeah, worth getting there as soon as you can.
Brilliant. And briefly, what about Cambodia? Because people often put those two countries together in a trip, or think about them together at least.
Yeah, they're a really nice one to combine. Cambodia is very much open as well and doesn't involve any testing requirements whatsoever. So it works really nicely if you want to combine the two, especially if you start with Vietnam, do your testing before you go there, and then you don't have to worry about any to hop over into Cambodia. It's also much quieter than it might have ever been before. So again, I'd highly recommend considering a trip there in the next few months. Our summer is especially what's called the green season, meaning that the short, sharp showers that take place over those few months basically make the scenery very, very lush and green and just exceptionally beautiful. So yeah, really, really good time to visit both countries.
Brilliant. Yeah. And Melissa, can you tell us about Indonesia? You mentioned in the check-in that it had opened, but what's the fine print there?
So you need to test 48 hours before you go, and you can then travel into all the main locations in Indonesia. So that would be Java, Bali, Sulawesi, Lombok, and so on. Pretty much, anywhere you'd want to go there, really. The good thing about Indonesia is that much of the country is just coming into its best weather season. So typically it'd be too late to book for that at this stage, but because it's been closed for so long, there's still plenty of availability. So for anyone looking for ideas and inspiration for a last minute summer holiday, I would really recommend Indonesia, perhaps Bali and Lombok in particular, beautiful islands with lots to see and do, and some of the best boutique hotels in the world, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, awesome. And talking about places with nice boutique hotels, Thailand has opened, Holly, has it not?
Yes, I am super excited about Thailand. So it has been open for a long time now, but with quite a few sort of various testing requirements. So you did have to do a pre-departure test before you go, and also an arrival PCR test when you get there as well. I was there in December and I had a great time, but I have to admit it was a tad stressful waiting for the result to come back whilst I was isolating in my hotel room. So currently the requirements are still the same, but it's been as good as confirmed that they will be finally dropping the on arrival test requirement any day now. So taking away that stress factor, which is really brilliant news. Singapore has also followed suit too. So these were basically the last countries really having any sort of proper in country testing requirements. So overall, it's very, very exciting news as we can finally say that Southeast Asia is open and without any restrictions.
There you go, you heard it here first. James, what about Bhutan? That was a bit of a holdout for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Good news on that front, though. Bhutan reopened its borders in April. They had 32 tourists arrive on the 2nd of April. They went through 5 days quarantine, so that's really shortened down, and they're going to be ready for September and October, the autumn season. So lots to look forward to there, and just an incredible destination.
Yeah, so we expect them to drop the on-arrival testing in time for the season, don't we?
Absolutely. They're going into their quieter season now anyway, so they're prepping for a full opening from September onwards.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's whip around the virtual room now. I'm going to ask all of you what your top tips are for booking right now and why. Starting with you, if I may, Melissa.
Well, for me, it would have to be a combination of Angkor Wat in Cambodia and Hoi An in Vietnam. They're two of the most amazing places in Southeast Asia, perhaps my favourites actually. But the word's well and truly been out for a long time, and pre-pandemic they were both pretty busy with, sometimes bus loads of big tour groups. And I think Holly just touched on it, but, Cambodia is in particular a lot quieter at the moment. So I think there's a once in a lifetime window of opportunity to go and explore them both before they get busy again.
Perfect. And Holly?
My top tip would be if you're thinking of getting away for Christmas, then really you need to get on it now. I've seen lots of availability issues cropping up, especially in countries like Sri Lanka and the Maldives. Hotels are much smaller in Sri Lanka. The Maldives is very much sought after, and you tend to very much fall in love with particular properties. And so if they've gone, it's a real disappointment. So if you've got your heart set on either a particular hotel or country, I really wouldn't leave it any longer. The same goes for really any sort of peak season or school holiday period, and I'd even really go as far to say that thinking about next Christmas isn't such a bad idea either.
Great advice. And last but not least, over to you, James.
Unsurprisingly for me, certainly for those at ETG HQ, I'm going to go for India. I would be looking at the northeast of India, maybe Calcutta, and up to Darjeeling in October. Throw in Durga Puja, a festival in Bengal, and you're going straight into what is amazing about India: the sheer vibrancy and the variety, and maybe even throw in a wildlife park as well.
Brilliant. That sounds perfect to me. Now, that's all we've got time for today. So thank you very much to James, Holly and Melissa. And of course, you can give us a call or drop us an email if you'd like to speak to Holly or James, or indeed Melissa or I, and just kick around some holiday ideas for the future. But most of all, I wanted to thank you for watching the State of Play with us, and most importantly for sticking with us during the pandemic. It has meant everything to us. In fact, it has meant that we are here today. So thank you and goodbye.